Welcome back to Sadhana. After the devastating earthquake which claimed the lives of thousands in Nepal earlier this year, Dr Kasandri Govender from Stanga travelled to Nepal to render service to the victims who desperately required medical attention. Sadhana caught up with this young gynecologist who shared with us her experiences in Nepal and how service to man is ultimately service to God.
I grew up in a Hindu home, and I came from parents who obviously prayer was very important, lighting the lamp was important, but as important was to practice being kind and good in our daily activities. My parents made sure that we understood that that was the way we practiced religion, to give more than receive. Gift of the Givers, as I'm sure everyone is aware, is a widely covered organization through media, and their local and international work is just something, it's just remarkable. And Dr. Imtiaz Suleiman, I had actually seen an interview with him, and I decided to go and do some research on them. This was 2 years ago, and I thought it was such a phenomenal thing that this gentleman, a doctor, a colleague, came up with this idea of just a simple outreaching to communities that need assistance. I had written to him and I'd said, listen, I'd like to become a part of your team. And when Nepal came up, he sent out an appeal for medical volunteers, and I replied in the affirmative. Nepal was a step out of my comfort zone for sure. I want to be the kind of person who can go out there and help somebody who truly has their hope taken away from them. So within 48 hours of everything being confirmed, 48 to 72 hours, we were feet on the ground in Kathmandu. As we landed, we were inundated with the sight of perhaps over 100 cargo airplanes from various countries that had landed, bringing relief workers and relief supplies to Nepal. And the welcome that we received was really immense from these people whose entire lives had been turned upside down, and who were now welcoming us with open arms. And that kind of humility and that kind of warmth really is just indescribable. We were basically sent out in different teams to the hospitals that required assistance. And most of those hospitals, by the time we had arrived, had dealt with most of the acute cases. What they were now faced with, they're inundated with the cases that were needed surgical assistance, especially orthopedics. So our orthopods, we had a team of orthopods with us, stepped right in. And my job personally, or my role personally, was I assisted with in theatre and helped out in their casualty. And I was also lucky enough to undertake a cesarean section. The reason I love obstetrics so much is because it gives you an aspect of medicine that is truly rewarding. You have a healthy patient, and you have a healthy mom come to you, and if all goes well, you get to be there when you bring this new life into the world. So that always brings me a great amount of joy, and that's why I chose it as my life's path. Now you fly to a country where maybe half an hour before we started that case, there was a tremor, and everyone felt it, and everyone felt a bit panicked, and we were all a bit worried. And then everything settles down, and you put a patient on the table, and you deliver her baby. And in that 1 second, it occurred to me, hang on, I'm in Nepal, we just felt a tremor, they've just gotten hit by an earthquake, and there's a new baby, and there's a mom with tears streaming down her eyes, because everything else pales in comparison to this. And there were these 3 little girls who had come. Their mums just brought them because they were a bit traumatized, as expected. And we just played with them. And we put lip gloss on them. It didn't require any medical expertise, but it was the most fulfilling experience. It really was the most, they just needed you to hold their hands, to hand out some hugs, just to say you're not alone. We know that your country's been so badly hit, but you're not alone, we're all here. We also provided food packages and food for the families and the patients whom we had treated, and we adopted 2 hospitals and provided food parcels to them. And we also undertook some primary health care, which I was involved in. We went up to the mountains in Kauli and we set up camp there, basically a table and a chair and some basic medication. And it was just that human touch that the Nepalese people needed. And that was all they wanted. We gave them some primary health care, we made contact with them and provided the best care that we could. And in the short span of time that we were there, we provided care to 700 patients through our mobile primary health care initiatives. It was really something else. It was, you got to see medicine at its best, being provided to people who needed it.
She cares about everything. She cares about the dogs, she cares about the cats, she cares about birds. She's always worried about something that, let's look at what's going on with that cat there, let's go and find if it has a home, let's feed that cat, let's take it down to the SPCA. If we're at the traffic light or whatnot, she's interested in the welfare of the person. She won't give money or food, but will go back and she'll buy a jacket. And she'll look at the guy and say, okay, no, he looks like a medium or a large, and she'll buy a winter jacket and say, no, this is for you.
We were driving out to one of the hospitals I was allocated to for the day, and I saw this middle-aged lady in a sari on the roadside. She'd created her own fire with a little pot which looked very worn down by age, and she was cooking in that pot on the side of the road. And we drove by her and she smiled and she waved. And nothing for me encompassed the Nepalese people more than that individual.
When she came back and she showed me the pictures, the dogs were still wagging their tails and being happy, although there was no food around and nothing for them to eat. People were still in good spirits, although this disaster had befallen them, you know. So the plan was to give it a few years and to go back and visit to those same areas and see whether anything has changed and what has happened.
I came back with a perspective, with a renewed perspective about how blessed I am. Not just to have the family and friends that I'm blessed with, not just to be able to practice medicine with all the resources that are available to me, but also to wake up every day and to be in a place where I don't feel imminently in danger from a natural disaster all the time.
She's always been very inspirational to me, but when she came back, the first few days she was very depressed about what had happened in Nepal and the suffering that the people were going through and the struggles. What she did value was value life, value what we have. You know, we complain about things like no water for 2 hours or no power for 2 hours. And she's like, you should value everything you have. Get up every morning and say thank you and do as much as you can, because you don't know what's going to happen in the next few minutes.
Just a small gesture to help another individual, to brighten another individual's day, to make a sustainable difference in somebody's life. I think that goes beyond any kind of... I think that is really the underlying notion of any religion.